Join me as I explore more than 28 ancient Indian sites across 14 days, not as isolated monuments, but as a single unfolding story across the subcontinent. Each site builds on the last. Each carving responds to what came before, forming a living narrative of ancient India. This story is not told from a distance. It's found by going there, step by step, because the journey is part of the meaning, and the history is the reward. After months of planning, we have finally arrived, Mumbai Airport. It's mid-afternoon, around 2:30. The flight is behind us, and the city is already in motion. Today's plan is simple. First, check into the hotel. Then we head straight to a museum, the CSMVS Museum, a place of sculpture, weapons, and objects that trace the subcontinent's long story across centuries. We found a taxi. We're on the road. Modern Mumbai stretches across the water, giving little hint of what once stood here. This coastline was a chain of 7 islands, known in ancient sources as Heptanasia. From the 17th century onward, the British began joining the islands together. Seawalls were built, marshes were drained, hills were cut down and pushed into the sea. A colonial city rose from the water, known to the world as Bombay. In 1995, the city returned to the name Mumbai. We've checked into our hotel. We're on foot, heading for the museum. Stepping into the street, the scale of Mumbai becomes impossible to ignore. Not just the size, the closeness. Here, the street tells us what the skyline can't, how the city actually functions. At first, it can feel overwhelming. The density, the constant negotiation of space. But historically, density is how a port city survives. We've reached the museum, and it looks like the entrance we need is around the other side. So we keep walking, around the building. The rhythm returns without hesitation. This is why museums matter here. Not because history vanished from the street, but because the street never pauses long enough to explain itself. We've arrived 1 hour before closing. This will be a quick visit, a fast-paced tour. We pass temple fragments where Hindu, Buddhist and Jain figures look strikingly alike. This is Vishnu, resting between cosmic cycles as one universe fades and another waits to begin. This is Ganesha, lord of thresholds and beginnings. This corridor establishes a principle early. Change often comes through refinement, not replacement. This is Durga, the goddess summoned when balance cannot be restored by gentler means. We step into a European art gallery. Meaning is no longer embedded in architecture. It's framed, isolated, arranged for viewing at a distance. This collection reflects the city's place within a global network shaped by empire. This is the museum's central hall. Galleries radiate outward, keeping different periods in constant relation. The theme changes again, not forward in time, but outward. These objects are East Asian, again a result of global connection. Much of what we see here relates to the Ming and Qing dynasties, the final two imperial dynasties of China. We're about to enter a different focus of Indian history, a room of weapons that once belonged to the Mughal Empire, a dynasty that consolidated and expanded Islamic rule across much of northern India. This is a Kula Kud. It signalled not just readiness for battle, but proximity to power, worn by high-ranking warriors rather than common soldiers. This is a complete mail and plate armour system, the standard defensive configuration used by Mughal-era elite cavalry and senior commanders. These cuirasses were worn by elite cavalrymen. Beside them are bazubans, cylindrical steel arm guards worn on the forearms. These curved swords are called talwars. Their single-edged blades were designed for controlled slashing, effective both on horseback and on foot. These are dal shields. They are designed to deflect blows, turning force away from the body. Behind them were khanjars, bichwas, and other thrusting weapons. They were carried close to the body, worn at the waist, and intended for use at the most intimate range. Here we see firearms, matchlock muskets, often known as toradars. For generations, these weapons were used alongside swords, shields, and armour, integrated into existing fighting systems rather than replacing them. Most of what we've seen in this room reflects the world of elites, commanders, nobles, and court-affiliated warriors, yet Mughal warfare relied far more heavily on those outside that elite circle. Notice the wavy-edged swords down below. Their undulating profiles increased resistance on contact, disrupting an opponent's blade. These bronzes were made using the lost wax casting technique, a method we'll encounter repeatedly as we continue. Each figure was first modelled entirely in wax, then encased in clay. When heated, the wax melted and drained away, leaving a hollow mould into which molten metal was poured. Once cooled, the clay casting was broken apart, revealing a single finished casting. Because the mould was destroyed in the process, no two sculptures are ever identical. The same technique was used across cultures, from Hindu kingdoms to tribal communities. Chests, such as this one, were produced across western and central India, regions known for highly developed traditions of furniture carving, where skill in working hardwood signalled both technical mastery and wealth. We encounter Vishnu again, this time standing between Lakshmi, the Hindu goddess of wealth, fortune, prosperity and beauty. Together, they form a canonical divine pair. Long before these deities were fixed in metal, they evolved through oral tradition, ritual practice, and earlier forms of art and architecture. These are Indian ivory carvings, made from the tusks of elephants. This is a royal howdah, designed to be mounted on the back of an elephant. We meet Shiva, in his form as the cosmic dancer, Nataraja, one of the most recognisable and theologically dense images of South Indian Shiva devotion. After spending time with South Indian divine figures, we return briefly to tribal ones, shaped not by theology, but by community life. This room is dedicated to Vajrayana Buddhism, a form that took shape as Buddhism moved north into the Himalayan world. At first glance, South Indian Hindu bronzes and Vajrayana bronzes can look similar, but they embody very different ideas of divine presence. In Hindu temple worship, each image is approached as a living divine presence. In Vajrayana Buddhism, it is a consecrated focus for meditation and ritual, a precise visual form used to train the mind. This is a bronze Buddhist mandala plaque, a ritual cosmological diagram used within Vajrayana practice. It presents a structured vision of the universe arranged for contemplation. This is Avalokiteshvara, also known as Padmapani, the Bodhisattva of compassion. The body bends in the Tribhanga pose, curved at 3 points, creating a sense of movement. Here is Avalokiteshvara again, in a different manifestation. Akadashamukha Sahasrabhuja, the 11-headed, 1,000-armed form of compassion. One of the most consistent features of Buddhist sculpture is that enlightened figures are rarely presented in isolation. This carved wooden head represents Mahabhairava, a fierce manifestation of the Hindu god Shiva. The exaggerated features do not signal evil, they signal protection. Notice how richly they are adorned, reflecting the expanded pantheon that developed as Buddhism moved into the Himalayan regions. Celestial Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and Tantric deities identified through specific attributes, hand gestures, and ritual implements. These artifacts belong to the Indus Valley civilization, the oldest material we will encounter on this journey. Here, 3 stone figures stand side by side, offering a visual comparison of closely related but distinct traditions that developed in northern India. Again we encounter Ganesha, the elephant-headed Hindu deity widely recognized as the remover of obstacles and patron of beginnings. Regarded as the son of Shiva and Parvati, Ganesha rose to particular prominence from around the 5th century onward. For the first time, we encounter Brahma, the 3rd figure of the Hindu Trimurti, alongside Vishnu the Preserver and Shiva the Transformer. Again we see the goddess Durga in the act of defeating the buffalo demon. This long stone panel represents the Saptamatrikas, which literally means 7 mothers. Each mother embodies the Sakti, the active power of a major male deity. Together, they express divine energy multiplied into protective force. This case brings together Gandharan Buddhist sculpture from the ancient region of Gandhara, located in what is now northwest Pakistan and eastern Afghanistan. This case gathers fragmentary stone heads from Gandhara dating broadly from the 1st to 5th centuries CE. At the centre here stands a Jain Tirthankara in Kayot Saga, the standing posture that defines one of Jainism's most uncompromising visual statements. These are Jina heads, fragments of enlightened Jain teachers. This is a cast taken from an earlier stonework. It represents the Buddha in the Gandharan style, shaped by artistic traditions that developed in contact with the Greco-Roman world. This carved stone pillar once formed part of the sacred railing that enclosed a Buddhist stupa at Pauni in Maharashtra, dating to approximately the 1st century BCE. This is later Buddhist devotional sculpture, characteristic of the Mahayana and Vajrayana traditions, the same visual and theological world we encountered earlier. This is Gandharan sculpture once again, born at a true crossroads of cultures. In the centuries following the campaigns of Alexander the Great, artistic traditions from the Mediterranean world encountered and merged with Indian religious thought. These sculptures once formed a part of a Buddhist monument at Kahujodaro in present-day Pakistan. This relief belongs to the world of the Jataka tales, stories from the Buddha's previous lives. This relief presents Shiva as Ashtamurti, the Lord in 8 manifestations. It's closing time. With luck, we'll return another day. Even so, this visit has offered perspective. A brief encounter with the depth of Indian history and the extraordinary range of traditions that emerged as ideas spread across regions and centuries. For now, we end where we began. Tomorrow, the journey truly begins. We head to Kanheri Caves, a complex of 109 rock-cut Buddhist caves carved between the 1st and 10th centuries.